Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be making a roasted squash. They're going to be in like a cube, kind of like a roasted potato, but instead of the potato, it's going to be a squash, which I've chosen Acorn Squash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the peel and take out all the seeds. I'm going to cube it, and then I'm going to season it, and then I'm going to bake it in the oven. And then once that's complete, I'm going to garnish it off with some nice pumpkin seeds. So I'm going to get started on showing you what I'm going to do first. So I have a half-size acorn, and I'm going to take the seeds out. I'm going to save the seeds for the summertime when the garden season comes, and I'm going to plant them in the ground and grow some nice squashes for the summer season. So I'm going to first take out my seeds, and then once this is done, I'm going to peel my squash. Now, one recommendation for when you're peeling squashes, because they are challenging, sometimes the peel is quite hard to get off. So sometimes I soak my squash to get it a little soft so that it's easier for it to come off. Another suggestion I recommend, because it's a known fact that squashes, when you're peeling them, because of the challenges that we may face while doing that, you might hurt yourself. So I cut my squashes in half, and what I do is I always face them downwards, so that as we're cutting them, you can either slice them into slices and then peel them individually, but then you're not having it slide. As if when it's in your hand, sometimes the knife could easily slide because it's a bit slippery with the texture of the inside of the squash. And so I always recommend to face it downwards, and then you would slowly cut down and make your squash into pieces, making it a lot easier than it would trying to do it all at once in your hand and avoiding any injuries from happening. So I'm going to dry off my hands because, like I said, it's quite slippery. So I'm going to get a better knife so that I can cut down the squash into pieces. You can also use a peeler. If you know how to use a peeler, they're great. Once you break them down, it's easy to just quickly peel it with a peeler, and you can't injure yourself as much as you would with a knife. So I would cut it down into pieces. And as you can see, when you have it flat down, it's not going all over the place, which is good. So now that we have them in pieces, you can either do them by hand. I would also recommend a peeler, which I'm going to use for this squash. So easily, you could just use a peeler, easy to come off, and therefore you won't get injured. Once I have this fully completed, I'm going to cube it, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. So I now finished peeling and cubing my squash. So I have a nice size of the squash. And so what I did is I washed it when I completed the cutting and the cleaning, so that's nice and ready for me to now season this squash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bowl, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the squash inside of the bowl, and then I'm going to start adding some spices and some seasoning for these before I put them into the oven. So I'm going to use some salt. I'm going to use some cumin. I'm going to use some black pepper. I'm going to use use some chili powder. I'm going to use some olive oil. And then I'm going to use some honey. Once I have that all together, I'm going to mix everything so that there's a nice balance. I'm going to place it on a pan that's first lined with some tin foil, then some parchment paper, and then I'm going to bake it in the oven. Once that's complete, I'm going to show you what that looks like. My squash has been baking in the oven for about a half hour now, and it's now complete. So I'm just going to bring it out of the oven. And it's nicely baked. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it in another dish. And then once I've done that, I'm going to drizzle some pumpkin seeds on top. And then I'm going to also put some fresh cilantro. So it gives it that nice fresh finish. So if you like this recipe and you want to see more like this, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that share, like, and that bell notification.